Nick here, and welcome back to another Flash episode review. My thoughts on tonight's episode of Flash, titled The New Rogues. And I thought this was a really fun episode. While it didn't further the story in any way, really, in terms of, the whole alchemy storyline, the effects of Flashpoint, it was fun, seeing the new dynamic, with Barry and Iris' relationship. And, we're seeing more of their domestic side, and seeing how that's kind of like affecting Joe and his feelings towards her relationship. And as well as seeing, Wentworth Miller back as Captain Cold, even though it wasn't really a proper return for the character, even though we know he's going to be back in the universe as part of the Legion of Doom in Legends of Tomorrow. So I thought this was going to be an introduction for that, but apparently I was wrong. So, there was that. Obviously, another aspect of the episode was, seeing Jesse Quick being Jesse Quick and giving her, kind of taking on the name that her dad kind of gave her. And I'm going to be missing Violet Bean as Jesse Quick. She's become one of my favorite characters in the show. And that version of Harrison Wells, there were times he was really hit or miss for me. I liked him. I didn't love him. Maybe it's because I missed, just having, just a normal Harrison Wells that isn't too much of one emotion, this Harrison Wells from Earth 2 was super stern and super serious all the time, and then the one they're bringing in from Earth 19 or whatever, or 18, he's a little too funny, and I'm already starting. I don't know if I can trust the guy. We just were introduced to him, but I don't want another Wells that turns out to be a bad guy. I think it's dumb. And I want more from the show. And again, this is just me, kind of overthinking it. Since this is the first time we're introduced to him, I just don't want another evil Wells, or a character who says he's Wells and turns out to be someone else, or just a Wells that turns out to be a bad guy. Because I'm tired of seeing that. But I mean, if it ends up being he's just a good guy, then cool. Bring in a new dynamic to the show, and giving Tom Cavanaugh a different character to work with. Because from what he said in interviews and stuff, he likes being able to play different versions of Harrison Wells, so that the character, he doesn't play the same thing all the time, So, I mean, that's good for him as an actor to be able to play different kind of roles in each season. It's, it's just, I don't know. I'm on the fence about where I am with the introduction of another Harrison Wells, but, we'll see how that goes. So, to kick off the moments that I enjoyed the most in this episode, of course, seeing Jessie train with Barry, and just seeing her, in her costume, that's essentially the trajectory costume from last season. I think she looks great in it, having her own little Flash logo there that's black. And I just think that looks really cool. And I like how in this episode for Joe, we have to see, him and Cecile, a character who we haven't seen since season 1, or maybe we saw her once in season 2. I don't remember the actress's name off the top of my head, but I think her and Joe have a really good dynamic. And I think it's time for Joe to be in a relationship himself. Considering everything that he went through with Francine, and just everything he's been through, as a character, I think he deserves to have some love in his life, and I think Cecile's a good fit for him, and so I think they're going to pursue that eventually. They wouldn't be dropping hints like that in tonight's episode if they weren't going to pursue it, and I think they will, because I think Joe deserves, again, to be happy and in a healthy relationship. And one thing, probably one of the bigger things in this episode was the dynamic between Joe and Barry, and how Joe is really reacting towards Barry and Iris' relationship, and how awkward it is at first when, he walks in on them kissing. And I can understand why it would bother Iris that things are getting so weird, but at the same time, their whole situation is kind of an awkward situation, because Joe is Barry's adopted dad, and in a way, that's Iris is Barry's adopted sister, so some people look at it as, in some way incestuous. This isn't like in the show, but this like some people, and I've seen stuff online about people saying how it's weird that they're essentially siblings. They're not. They're not blood related in any way. Joe raised Barry. Barry has always been in love with Iris, and that's just how that turned out. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's incestuous at all, because they're not blood related. They're not actual siblings. They grew up together because Joe essentially adopted Barry and raised Barry ever since his parents were murdered. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue. But I understand within the episode how since they grew up together and they essentially lived in the same house, that it could be a little weird, considering Joe was also Barry's foster dad. So it'd be weird for him to see that. But of course, by the end of the episode, he was okay with it. But I thought it's good to bring in some tension to their new relationship, and to kind of test it a little bit here and there. Obviously, I don't think they're gonna end Barry and Iris' relationship. I sure hope they don't, because, you know, I've been a West Allen shipper for a long time now, and seeing them together and being all flirty and going on dates and stuff, honestly, I think they're so cute together. As a guy, you know, you won't expect to hear those kinds of things from... Well, I mean, if you guys know me, you guys aren't shocked by me saying this. But I feel like not as many fans are a fan of, like, relationships when it comes to superheroes and comic book properties. But to me, you know, West Allen, you know, Iris and Barry's relationship, I think it's one of my favorite superhero relationships. Like, to me, I can easily compare it to Clark Kent and Lois Lane. How they're healthy in the relationships in the comics, as well as the movies and other TV shows and stuff. So I think just having them finally together after all the tension in the last couple of seasons, and it was said that Barry is destined to be with Iris no matter what Earth he's on, essentially. I'm glad to see them finally together and seeing them in the more domestic side. I was happy to see, even though, you know, they weren't tested really in the relationship, but having some tension there, I thought was an interesting dynamic to bring to the table. Let's see what else. And when it came to the villains in this episode, look, I'm on the villains were kind of in the middle for me. You know, like, visually it was cool seeing the top and how she essentially induces, like, vertigo, not like the arrow drug, but, you know, like actual, like, the condition of vertigo onto anyone she, like, locks eyes with. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And then the visuals were cool. It kind of felt very, like, Inception-y. But at the same time, it's like, for a villain who's called the Top, I expected there to be, like, spinning and stuff like that. I mean, yes, that's cheesy and stuff like that. And you essentially look like, you know, Wonder Woman spinning the entire time, and that's it. But I did kind of want something like that. But yeah. And then Mirror Master. And one thing that I thought was interesting too was in the episode when they're coming up with a name for Mirror Master and Wells brings it up, he mentions that there's a Mirror Master on his Earth that uses, like, a mirror gun, or a mirror device, which is, you know, pretty much the Mirror Master we've seen in every incarnation of Mirror Master in the comics and animated shows and whatnot. And having a Mirror Master that's a meta, I feel like, because Mirror Master is one of the biggest Flash villains, and I feel like in this episode, first of all, we don't have, I get it, it's supposed to be somewhat realistic, so having him in a suit would be a little ridiculous, but having him be a meta, and having him just be some dude who's wearing a suit the entire time, like, I would have wanted a little more, like, the comic book look to him, at least. I can forget the fact that he's a meta-human and just walks through mirrors and stuff like that. But I would have wanted him to have more of the proper look. Because at least, like, with Heatwave and Captain Cold, it's not comic book proper, but they do enough to make it somewhat realistic of their looks for them being rogues and how cheesy their costumes can be. Especially Captain Cold's, where all they do is give him like a blue jacket that has the hood. And honestly, I'm so used to it now, that's enough for me. But for Mirror Master, I would have wanted something that looks like his comic book counterpart. But that was just like a minor thing. And another aspect of the villains that I didn't necessarily love was just how easily they were taken down in the last bit of the episode. Obviously, you know, they were introduced when they had that fight between Jesse and Barry and them two. I thought that was a cool fight visually, and just seeing, you know, Barry and Jesse team up. I thought those are some of my favorite parts of the episode, seeing Barry and Jesse together. And when we see Barry, you know, he's trapped within that mirror. At the same time, like, again, while all that stuff was cool and the fight was cool, the final fight felt very short, and it was almost too easy for them to defeat the two of them. I understand, you know, there's a lot going on in the episode, and obviously, like, Mirror Master isn't gonna be like a main villain or anything like that. So they kind of have to, like, get through it, but I still wanted more as a fan. That was just me being kind of nitpicky, but at the same time, it's just like, I just wanted something more, like a bigger fight, like a cooler fight, or maybe give some aspect of his comic book character to him that's not just like the whole mirror thing. I mean, the way they trap him in the infinite reflective loop, that was kind of cool, but the whole fight itself between the two speedsters versus the two rogues, it felt very, no pun intended, felt like a very quick fight. So, and one other thing that was definitely brought up in the episode was, you know, the use of Caitlyn's freezing powers, and by the end of the episode, we find out she's starting to really become Killer Frost. Like, we see, like, the final scene of the episode, we see her showering, and then she freezes the water in the shower, and then she goes to the mirror, and her skin's all pale, and she's all cold, and she has, like, a white streak in her hair, so she's really starting to become Killer Frost. And this season, I think that's what's going to happen to her character. I'm glad because it's giving more for Danielle Panabaker to work with, because I feel like Caitlyn as a character, she's just kind of been there. She hasn't really been the most compelling character by any means. She's cool. I mean, she's nice and she brings a cool dynamic to the team. But in terms of what she does as a character, yes, she helps the team. I'm not saying she's like a useless character or anything like that. I just feel like she doesn't do enough. Like Cisco, I love Cisco. Like he does enough and he's cool and he has his vibe powers and stuff like that. But up until this point, Caitlyn has just been like a love interest for other people. She was trapped and like all this stuff, and it's just I don't know. Like I haven't loved her character. Not that she's done anything wrong. It's just she hasn't done enough to make her all that interesting. And I'm glad that they're finally making her Killer Frost. And I'm really excited to see that, because when they brought in Killer Frost last season from Earth 2, those are some of my favorite episodes of the season that she was in, and her performance kind of made it better for me. So yeah, and I'm just really excited to see what they're doing with their character moving forward. So with that being said, I think that's going to be it for me. What did you guys think of this episode? Sound your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for all the content I upload on my channel every week, from Star Wars Rebels to Supergirl to Flash to Legends of Tomorrow, and all the different trailer reviews and movie reviews in between. You guys can check all my videos out, as well as sounding your thoughts on everything, and making this community a positive place for us nerds and fans of comic books and genre in general to talk about all the things we love. So again, that's going to be it for me. So until next time, guys, have a good one.